Aisha, who is also known as Oath Oracle, is very inspirational to me. She's a visionary astrologer, a business oracle, and she really knows what she's talking about. You know, just when you hear her speak, like, wow, I'm like, tell me everything, tell me what to do. I want all of your knowledge. Please give me all your oracle insights. And so, in this part two of the interview, we talk about spirituality, we talk about her own practices and how she is able to craft her offerings, her business, and what she does. It was very inspirational for me. I loved it. I know you will as well. If you haven't listened to the first part of this interview, it's about her Saturn return, about her story, about what she did before getting into this space, which was wonderful as well. Let me know what you think. I would love to know what you learned from this episode and anything you've listened to on this podcast. So, I want to talk a little bit more about your business. So, that's a pretty big jump from, let's say, you were making no money for those 2 months, $0, and then you jumped in less than 2 years' time to $40,000. Like, what was the healing that needed to happen? Because, you know, this is something that I study as well. Like, you know, we're in similar lines of work. I'm always thinking about my money mindset and how I need to deprogram of needing to work more, super Capricorn energy.
Yes.
And more about being and getting to that state, that mental state, but that vibrational state of like, hey, I am welcoming money into my life. I'm opening up these portals. I have new mindsets. And in and of itself, that shifts your thinking and thus your actions. So you begin to show up differently and you begin to bring in all that you want to dream of. But, you know, what were some of the things that you did to really help you jump through these money hoops?
Yes, I love everything that you just said because it really is about who we are being. And when we have that Virgo South Node, when we got those Capricorn placements, it's like, it's hard to let go. It's hard to loosen the grip because so much of that is mirrored to us in society as well. So when we have those codes in our chart, we tend to be really good employees. We tend to be good in different roles because we work really hard. And when we enter spiritual business or our purpose work, it's not about how hard or how much we are working. It's about the impact that we create. And we create a greater impact the more that we are in alignment with who we came here to be, as well as like our body, the energy of our body, the vibrancy and the radiance of our body and of our energetic field, because that is really how we actually attract our soulmate clients. It's not only through posts on social media, it's the energetics that we were in when we made those posts and the energetics that we cultivate in our body and in our life. So there's a lot of things along the way, but I think I did a lot of breaking down before I even started my business. So a lot of like the money mindset stuff, the subconscious mindset things, doing journaling practices. This was like my very, very first step. And this was before I started my business. This was when I was doing exotic dance and I was really trying to make it work for me. So I was really trying to approach it in a very spiritual way. And doing the work of, okay, what was the first experience I had with money? What was the first memory I have around money? And these are questions you can ask yourself in journal. So I would ask myself, like, what comes up when I think of the word money? And I would write down everything that would come up. And as you go on this like self-inquiry journey, more and more unveils itself to you, like, oh, when my mom and dad fought about it like this. Oh, when this happened, when my mom wanted to leave my dad, but she couldn't afford to keep herself afloat by herself. And like different things like that. Oh, when we went to the food bank, when electricity got cut off in our house, and these memories come up, and recognizing that, oh my God, how I relate to money right now is influenced by my parents' journey with money and what was available to my parents and their like fights about it and things like that. So that uncovering work, that investigation work is really important because even just seeing that already starts the shift. Even just recognizing that and being like, oh my God, like my feelings about money are not only my own. They're influenced by things that are no longer my reality, especially as women of color. In my lineage, as a Pakistani woman, women were very dependent on their partner, if like 100% dependent on their partner. They weren't able to go necessarily get a job. And some, like in certain cultures, women are almost treated like property, where they are actually property. They don't have a job. They don't have financial freedom. They often can't even get a divorce. So in our lineages, thinking about the experiences that they must have had, loving that, honoring that, having reverence for that, but also realizing that's not the truth of my life today. And what a blessing that is. And so now I really love connecting with my ancestors, being like, you know what? I am going to be wildly, unapologetically wealthy because you guys never got to experience that. So I'm not going to hold myself back in this like servitude energy of like, I need to prove, earn, all of these things. So that was a really big part of it for me. And then as it gets deeper, and what is really, really important, even right from the start, is nervous system work. Because we can say, I am a magnet for money. I am abundant. I deserve abundance is my birthright. We can say those things, but if it's not ringing through our bodies, and if our body feels unsafe when we talk about money, which many, many, many of us have this, it is a nervous system issue. So things like somatic practices, things like somatic therapy, vagus nerve toning, which is a nerve that goes all through our body, and just realizing, hey, we're in flight or fight a lot of the time, so many of us, but we're not truly in danger. So a lot of these nervous system responses, like being in fight or flight, is a survival thing that evolved over millions of years of us having to run from predators. And that's no longer the truth of most of our situations. So recognizing that we are safe, and not just knowing that in our mind, but cultivating that in our body and in our nervous system, is absolutely vital. So if someone's listening to this that has been doing all the money mindset work and all the money courses, but the body is still feeling unsafe, that's where we have to go.
Yes, and I realized this for myself earlier this year, that I had set a lot of intentions around how much money I wanted to like make in my business. And I'm like, I don't know why it's not happening. I'm doing all the right things. And I realized I was like, oh, I'm doing too much and I'm not really feeling it. It's really like, oh, am I really enjoying this work? Am I enjoying what I'm sharing? Like, am I coming from the right, like, energetic place as well as intention? It's easy to get caught up in the work of like, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. But honestly, like, if you are at the right frequency, if you feel safe, if you feel worthy, if you've done all the money mindset shifts, to a certain degree, because we're always growing with those, right? Because, I'm guessing for you, you're hitting 40K months like pretty easily. And that next jump, 80, 100, 200,000, a million, like you still have to do that work.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. It just gets
that's what I learned.
deeper.
Yeah, and that's what I learned. Like, you have to feel into it. You have to be like, hey, everything is fine. And how would I feel if I made 10,000, 20,000, 30,000? And that is really, I think, the biggest missing piece for a lot of healing work, a lot of spiritual work, is to really feel into it, not just going through the motions, but really feeling.
Absolutely. And especially like we know this on a deep level with that Virgo South Node, because that Virgo South Node has the shadow of overdoing, perfectionism, the real practical service. Like, how can I be of service? How can I be of service? How can I be of service? And being of service is so, so, so beautiful. But we often have a distorted definition of what that is, because the greatest service will come from people who are nourished, who are not living in fear, who are living in a state of vibrational abundance and in a state of spiritual wealth. Then we are even greater conduits for our purpose in this world and for like divine source energy, which I believe is like really the root of all of our purpose work. And I love how you brought up the emotions, because the emotions and feeling and cultivating those emotions in our body now of what that next level is a much more magnetic frequency than the chasing a carrot that's dangling in front of our face that feels like we can never attain it. That's what we create more of. That's what we're planting in our garden, is that feeling of chasing. And I've also experienced that in my business, where I thought, as I said, I was like, oh man, if I made 4,000 per month on this, that would be insane. Like, doing this thing that I love so much, that'd be amazing. And then, thinking, oh man, if I was making 10K months, I'll be rich. I'm going to have a massage every week. I'm going to this. When my 10K months started happening, which was in September last year, so pretty quickly, within 6 months of starting my business, I almost didn't even notice, because I was so in the hamster wheel energy, because I didn't know anything but the hamster wheel. So it was like, oh yeah, whatever, that's whatever. Like I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't receiving it. So if we're not receiving it, we are creating more not receiving in our lives, if we're not receiving what is already there. So I want to share an exercise, and
Yes.
this is from the stripper days. Okay, so this is what I started to do when I was realizing that I became numb to the numbers, and the numbers just became this arbitrary thing that it was like never enough, even when it was like far more than I was making in the past. Because that's what can happen when we're in the entrepreneur space and we're surrounded. I really love having expanders in my life that are at 6-figure months, that do make these big numbers. But sometimes when we're like living in social media land and it's like we're like locked down in a pandemic or something, and all we see is people making 50K months, like we can feel like, oh my God, like what's wrong with me or something like that. So it's so important to receive what we have now, no matter what it is, because that creates more to receive, more openness to receive even more and even more. So what I started to do when I realized, oh my God, girl, why are you looking at your 10K month like it's not enough? Like, come on, like get real. And I started to do a practice where I would sit there, ground in my body, put my roots down into the earth, grounding and connecting with Mother Earth, taking some clearing breaths. And I would imagine counting that money in cash in my hands. Because when you're an exotic dancer, you go home at the end of the night with a bunch of paper cash and you
Yeah.
sit there and count it. And you feel, if it was $1,000 night, you feel what that feels like physically in your hand. So this is a practice that I tell people sometimes when we're like, it's like, oh, only 2 people signed up, or this only made, $500 or something like that. I'm like, count that $500 in cash in your mind's eye and let yourself feel that, let yourself enjoy that, and let yourself receive that, because all that does is create more space in your being and in your business to receive even more.
I love that. I love that. And, since you started your business, did you ever fluctuate? Did it ever go like, let's say, like 10,000, then like 5,000, and then 20,000, then 10, or has it been very stable?
I am very grateful to say that it has only ever just increased. I was from 30 to 35 to 37 to 40, 40 again to 45. It has been an ever increase. And something I want to say is that each of our paths in business is completely different. So while I believe that all of us have quantum leaps available to us, that all of us are able and deserve to create wild abundance through our purpose work in this world, to me, that's the most natural thing in the world. We also have to recognize that we have our own karmic paths. That might mean not everyone is destined to create within 2 years those numbers. And so it's really important for us not to get discouraged and to really be in love with the journey, while also knowing it is available to us to create wild prosperity with our purpose. So I just really want to say that,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I think fluctuations are very normal and nothing to worry about. And my path has been my path. I had a lot of breaking down, a lot of ego death, and a lot of my lessons came before I started my business. And that's not the case for everyone. So
Yes.
that's just something unique to my path. And all of us will have things which are unique to us. And we see people that were at it for 8 years and then they burst into $1 million year. And then the next year they're doing 20 million. So we really never know. So it's so important to not judge the quality of our progress based on other people, of course.
Yes, other people, but also just how much money you make. It is very difficult because it is the measure of how well you're doing. It is kind of the way we compare and understand success. But you're right. It's an important reminder to be like, if you're doing the work, just trust in the process, and your day will come and your success is inevitable as long as you believe in it.
I truly believe our success is inevitable. And I truly believe that anyone who has the desire within them to share their work with the world, abundance is a natural byproduct of that. So I believe abundance is available to each and every one of us, but not everyone is going to be making 10K months within 6 months of launching their business. That's just not everyone's karma.
Yeah.
And so it's important to understand that, because when we're surrounded, we're spending more time online right now, right? Like just due to what's going on in the world, we're spending more time online. We're seeing people have these really, really amazing results. And it's great because that means we know and get to talk to people and get to even work, like hire someone as a coach who has created these amazing results in their business. And that's really important, having expanders and knowing that it's possible. But then we can often shift into this distortion of like, yeah, it's possible. And because it hasn't happened for me yet, then something is wrong, or thinking, you know what I mean? So it's really about just falling in love with our own journey and our own path, and falling in love with the experiment, the game game of creating our heaven on earth, using our blueprint, using the different things that we connect with, different modalities we connect with, to realize like we're in a love affair with spirit, we're in a love affair with Mother Earth, with our higher self. And the business, as long as you keep moving forward, you readjust when things don't work and you learn along the way, and you just keep connecting to what's the truth for you, your success literally is inevitable.
Your faith is so strong and your advice is so inspiring. I know so many people listening will be like, oh, thank you. Like, that's what I wanted to hear because, for the most part, the first few years of business, it is challenging. It is challenging, even if, let's say, you've started other types of businesses or it's your first time doing your own thing. And like you said, we all have our own karma. Some of us are learning as we do the business more than, let's say the path that you're on. You did a lot of the work before, and then it's just kind of steadily increased. But it's neither bad nor good. It is what it is.
Exactly.
Do you have any, words of advice for people who are looking to change their money story, whether or not they want to start a business, a spiritually aligned business, whether it's in wellness or something else, or someone who's just like, I really like the work that I do. Like I'm a doctor, or I'm a journalist, and I kind of want to stay in the traditional framework of work. What advice do you have for kind of like these two types of people? One that kind of wants to stay within the traditional structure, and one that wants to kind of create their own.
I believe that the work of uncovering our family story around money is just absolutely vital to everyone, because the realities that different generations faced are simply different. There's so much more possible to us and available to us in certain ways than there were in the past. So recognizing that, hey, this inherited trait is not actually the truth of who I am, through reflection and journaling and self-inquiry, that is just something really, really, really powerful. Because as much as we know money isn't everything, the lack of money and the hoarding of money is causing a lot of suffering on this planet. A lot of people suffer because they don't have enough resources. And that is the fault of society's relationship with money, different, the hoarding of wealth, and et cetera, et cetera. So understanding that this is a very emotionally loaded topic, even for people who make a lot of money. So I believe all of us doing this uncovering work of like, what am I carrying, which was not even mine to carry? What did I inherit from my lineage, from my parents, which is actually not serving? And I think that is also a great question, is like, who is this serving? So another message I want to share out there is for those healers, spiritual, intuitive people who feel uncomfortable charging money for their services or talking about money. I want to ask you, like, who is it serving for you to have that attitude? So that question can really serve, like, that's a very helpful question. Like, who is it serving for me to feel this way about money? Who is it serving for me to have this story around money and have these patterns show up? So that self-inquiry process is really, really, really important. Then in terms of the nervous system stuff, I believe that's also helpful across the board for every single one of us, of realizing, money is very connected to survival. It's connected to the root chakra and the chakra system. It's like when we feel threatened, we get triggered. When we're acting from a trigger, we're not usually being our best self, or we're not usually really like 100% living and embodying our values if we're acting and reacting from a trigger. So being with ourselves, taking deep breaths, making paying bills a beautiful ritual is something I love to do. Even when I just started my business, and just to go back to the history once again, I had 2 months, so January and February of 2020, no income whatsoever. I had a couple of readings, just like a few $100s in that 2 months. And all I was doing was studying. I was studying business, branding, marketing, everything I didn't know. And I was studying it for free online because I actually had no startup money. I was actually $2,000 in debt. So I was just really committing to doing that. Then when it came in March, there was that huge, big thing that happened in the world, the first lockdown. So I actually had less readings the first month of my business than I did before I even officially had a business, because people were in the state of being really, really unsure and uncertain. So during that time, I actually had an overdraft fee on my visa because my visa didn't have enough money to pay for something. So it was maxed out. And I got charged like a $21 or $29 overdraft fee. So those things could really mess with my energy because I would get so upset. Like, how could you penalize someone who doesn't have enough money by taking even more of their money? Like, there's so many things that I disagree with in our banking system and with our like financial and economic systems, like penalizing people for not having enough. So in the past, that could be something that like, I would just be like, oh, why did that have to happen? Why didn't I check my statement before I put that payment through? Why didn't I this? Why didn't I that? And like really beating myself up over it because of this like $29. So what I started to do is I made this shift that whenever any bill, especially like an unexpected one that feels really unfair, I just decided, hey, this is going to Archangel Michael. Or like, this is going to Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance. And I just decided that that's what that was. So we get to play these games and we get to decide how we relate to money. So we actually feel like it's a resource for us, not that we have to sacrifice for it constantly. Money shouldn't have power over us. We have power over money. So, but we don't feel like that. Even millionaires don't feel like that. So cultivating that is cultivating a powerful inner freedom.
Yes, absolutely. Because something that, I tell clients and, I continuously tell myself is if you don't have a good money mindset, it doesn't matter if you're making $1,000 a month, 10,000 or 100,000, you're always going to think the rug is going to be pulled from under you. You're always going to think like, oh, this is not enough. Whatever, the thought loops are happening in your head. So at any stage, it's time to get your mind right and to be like, I am grateful for the 1,000, for the 10,000, for whatever number it is, because that's the right place to be. Because yes, you're right. There are many wealthy people who don't feel like they have enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was me, what you said with like being scared of the rug getting pulled out from under me. That was me at my 10K months. And I realized how absurd that was compared to where I came from. But because in entrepreneurship, there is no guaranteed income. There might be recurring revenue that happens every month. But at that time, I didn't have a lot of that. At that time, my business was 100% readings and 100% one-on-one work. So that's always the thing of like, oh, well, yeah, I have these amazing clients now, but what about next month? And like those questions and cultivating the root chakra safety and cultivating a relationship with Mother Earth as well. And realizing we're always, always, always supported. That's also something that really helped me during those times of like, yeah, I might be making a lot of money right now, but I'm not going to let myself enjoy it because I don't have a guarantee that it's going to come next month. But when you choose the path of entrepreneurship, you're choosing a path of no guarantees. So having as much fun with it as possible and actually getting aroused by the mystery and by not knowing, that has been a really quantum key for me in going from my 10K to my 40K months of like, and a way that I think of it that was really helpful for me was because I was always looking for the security, right? I didn't grow up with security. All over my birth chart is all these things around security, karmic stuff. And I was always just craving that. And even as like a dancer, I had to go into work to get paid. If I don't go in, I don't get paid, right? And even then, it's not actually guaranteed because they're not paying you a wage. You're actually just using that space and doing exotic dance in that space. So during those times, I like, yeah, great, a $10,000 a month, but there's just no guarantee for next time. And I started to realize that when we're in a realm of predictability, we're only going to create predictable results. But if you want to create like next level results of like, oh my God, now I make in a month what I used to make in a year, quite literally in under 2 years. It's the mystery that's going to take you there. It's the mystery and the magic of the things we don't know. So something I started to play with was the idea of going on a date. So say you're going, this is just purely hypothetical. Say you are on Tinder, okay? And you're checking out some people and it's like, oh my God, this person seems interesting. They're like good looking, like they're what they're saying seems very intelligent. Ooh, they have like an interesting job. It's like interesting, like not getting putting all my eggs in a basket or anything, not getting like any weird attachments, but just being like interesting. I'm actually intrigued by this person. Very interesting. And then, oh, we're going to meet up. Okay. And then it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then you can go and be somewhere, maybe having a glass of wine and the conversation's actually going really great. And there's chemistry and it's like, ooh, interesting. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And that feeling is such a delicious feeling when you're first getting to know someone and you just like, you don't know what's going to happen. And so evoking that has been really great for me in business. I'm in a long-term relationship, but evoking that energy with my business, that has been a game changer for me. That has been a 10K to 40K type game changer of like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where money is coming from next month. I don't know who my next client is going to be. And that is so delicious.
I love that. I love it. Okay, so how can people find you? How can people work with you?
Thank you so much, Alice, for having me, by the way. This has been such a treat to just go deep into all these topics.
So fun.
I adore the work that you do in the world, and it's such a pleasure and privilege to be able to connect with your audience. So I really invite anyone who resonates with my teachings and my work and my expression to follow me on Instagram at oath.oracle. That's where I am the most active. I do a lot of spontaneous lives and business trainings, and I also make really heartfelt horoscopes at the full and new moon. So I invite you guys over there. I have a catalog of various evergreen workshops that are astrology as well as business options. I have my signature program, Cosmic Success Codes, which is me teaching astrology for business. And I also work with people one-on-one, and I do my signature reading, which is the Soul Wealth reading, which is an astrology birth chart reading from the perspective of your success codes, wealth codes, branding, business, and marketing as well. So those are some big passions of mine. And I actually created a discount code for your audience for just a couple of offers that I think would be really, really, really beautiful for listeners of your podcast. One is the Path of Becoming. This is my workshop, my masterclass, all about the North and South nodes of future destiny and past life karma. So Alice and I were speaking about how we have the same ones, which means we have this past life karma of this Virgo energy, which has the shadow of judgment, perfectionism, and overwork. And our North nodes are both in the sign of the mystic, healer, and dreamer. And here we are connecting in this very spiritual way. That journey of the North and South nodes has been absolutely vital to me. And I could talk about it for like 3 hours, which is why I have this masterclass. So I invite you guys into that. And I also have something called the Mystic Business Bundle, which is a bundle of all of my business masterclasses, my most popular business trainings, as well as my bespoke sacred social media and branding for your rising sign masterclasses. So I've created the code WOO, as in WOOWOO, for 20% off either of those for the listeners.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm also excited to check those out too, because I haven't had the pleasure to do any one-on-one work with you or any of your evergreen courses, but I can't wait.
Thank you so much for having me, Alice.
For me, spirituality means a connection to myself, my higher self, as well as the universe. It's understanding that you are not alone and to really trust in divine timing. And something that I've been saying a lot to myself recently, and it's also the screensaver on my laptop, is that what you seek is seeking you as well. Now, we all are energetic beings and our mood shifts from day to day. But this mood also dictates how you feel, the thoughts swirling around in your head, your actions, and what you're able to attract in your life. And when I got into this space, but when I became a more spiritual person, I truly began to understand what energy meant and how I was showing up in the world and the energy that I was sharing with others. And so I hope this episode really expands your thinking on spirituality, and having this trust in yourself and the universe can really transform your life, allowing you to feel more peace, allowing you to feel more clarity, and most importantly, allowing yourself to connect with the truest version of you, your most authentic self, and then how it allows you to live an aligned life. If you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed because you're early in your spiritual awakening, or you're going through a dark night of the soul, or you've kind of been exploring spirituality for a while but haven't really been able to incorporate it into your daily routine or have a daily ritual around it, I would love to be able to support you, whether it's through a career clarity reading or working with me one-on-one for 3 months or 6 months to help you figure out your purpose, to give you all the tools and foundation to really help you live an aligned life where you feel happy, waking up, doing what you do, loving what you do. And you can find how to connect with me in the show notes, or you can always reach me on my number, I like to call it my hotline, 202 918 3414. So 202 918 3414.